What's up? It's Sofia Gutierrez with Arena Football One, and today I'm going to be chatting it up with Nashville Kats' very own Rob Jones Jr. Rob, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Sophia?
Good. Oh, thanks for the claps. I appreciate it.
How's everything?
Going good. I can't complain.
Yes, glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. What about you? I know you just got back to your place. You're with the guys cooking it up or
Yes,
something.
yes. Thanks for having me. Definitely took time out, to, get on the call with you. Was looking forward to it all day. I was telling the guys, I get to talk with the league today, so we were definitely excited.
Oh, yeah. I'm happy to hear. Well, I'm so happy to have you on. I know we got to chat a little bit before we got the cameras rolling, but I want to take it back. Now, I
Okay.
know you were a Swiss Army knife in high school. You went to Armwood High School, played wide
Yes.
receiver, quarterback, kick returner. How did your football journey start before that?
Okay, so dating all the way back, my first year playing football, I was 8 years old. But by the age of 6, I was crying, begging my mom, to let me on the field. All my uncles played, all my family played. So, it was always a time where I'm like around the game, so that's where really the love for the game came from. It came at an earlier time. It came from an earlier, it came from an early time and from the time when I was young. So, always loved the game. Earlier on, I was more in like tight end, fullback positions. I was, I grew. I grew up fast per se. So they put me in positions where I was either blocking or something of that nature. But I've always loved the game. I played every year, or pretty much all the way from little league all the way through the professional levels. So when I'm not playing football, I'm training and coaching football. So it's pretty much my life. It's definitely my lifestyle.
Yeah. And I know in high school you also did track and field, held
Yes.
the record for hurdles. Did that help translate on the field when you were playing football?
Yes, it definitely translate. It definitely translate. Especially like with the speed, jumping over, like I said, jumping over hurdles, which is like it's very challenging. It's very similar to the football field, to where you may have somebody in front of you, you may have to jump over them. So you're changing gears, rapidly running. So yeah, it definitely translate. Help me with my wind, help me with my speed all around. So I definitely attribute a lot of my success to the track.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Now, being from Florida and then making the transition up the East Coast to Delaware, how
Yes.
was that going from, sunny tropical Florida to Delaware, the state that gets all 4 seasons throughout the year?
Yeah, so that was really one of the major reasons why I went to Delaware, because on my official visit, it was actually snowing. So that was my first time ever seeing snow. It was my first time ever having to wear a jacket, really, honestly. So, it was a different experience. I got to go on my official visit with some other Florida guys. So it was kind of like a family from the beginning. So um, we were there all 5 years together. I did 5 years. I was a 5-year letter winner, so I played in each of my 5 years there. An injury set me back one of those years, but I came back, ended up being an All-American there. I was first team All Conference there, 2,000 all-purpose yards. So I definitely enjoyed my time there.
Mhm. And I know injuries are, there's something tough. It can either really get you depressed and sad, but you came back, you did amazing. What was your mentality? Because physically you were injured, and I
Yes.
know that can also take a toll on you mentally, but how did you manage to stay up?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. So after my injury, I never redshirted. I started out as a true freshman, so I got playing time early at Delaware. So I was actually able to redshirt my senior year. So that's really kind of like opposite of what guys usually experience. So I felt like it was kind of cool. Honestly, like I got an extra year to stay in college to work on my craft. Just try to get better all around. Just getting back healthy. Um, I ended up getting a minor. I was able to have a major and a minor with that point. So it helped me with my studies as well, build up my accolades and my credentials as well. So, I had a positive mindset going into that extra year. I was, excited to actually be back. It made me train harder, took it more serious, so it definitely gave me a different perspective, different outlook on, my opportunities.
Mhm. And what did you study in college?
I went to school for health and nutritional sciences. So
Oh, okay.
I got my minor in coaching, actually. So, I've been putting my minor to use a lot. And, with my major, I use that. I train professional athletes. So, building nutrition plans for them and, just help them, be more healthy and eat better, all around. So, that was what I grew up outlaw. That was what I grew up. In college, that was my major in college.
That's amazing. Yeah, both of the things that you studied have really helped you with what you do, and I know
Yes.
you train a lot of athletes, professional athletes, NFL players, but you also train the youth. How important is it to kinda ingrain in them that what you eat and what you do in your early years will affect what you do later on in life?
Yes, it makes all the difference. I definitely harp on that with my guys, making sure that you're eating right, taking care of your body, because once you get to college, your body never feels the same again.
Mhm.
I told some of my athletes that they didn't believe me, and then they come back home from college, and they're like, "Yeah, man, I feel 10 years older already." So,
Oh,
you
that
know,
freshman
I
15 is real.
yes, yes, yes. It definitely is a game changer. As soon as you get into college, your body feels completely different. So I definitely stress that with my guys. Start preparing yourself to be a pro at an earlier age, so that way, once it's time for you, you don't have a big transition. You're already taking care of your body. You're already eating the right things. It helps you with injuries, helping you stay healthy, and making sure you stand on the field as well. So, I definitely attribute a lot of it to your nutrition.
Mhm. What would you say is your go-to meal before a game day to make sure you can perform at your best?
My go-to meal before a game is a chicken Caesar salad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like to feel too heavy.
Mhm.
I will do a big breakfast depending on the time we play. If we play later in the day, like a 7 p.m., I'll do a really big breakfast though. Your bacon, eggs, French toast, pancakes, your grits. Um, but when it gets closer to game time, maybe about 3.5, 4 hours before, I like to have chicken Caesar salad. That's my go-to. I got my protein, and I got my veggies in there, so get me some plant protein as well. So
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of carbs, maybe with some rice or something like that. I try to add in a little bit, but I don't like feeling too heavy,
Mhm. And I know
before
you're
that
li
part around.
yeah, that's completely understandable, and I know you're living with some of the guys. Do
Yes.
you see your nutritionist coming out when the guys are making some food? You're like, "Okay, hold up. We got a game this
Yes,
weekend."
yes. A couple of guys in the house, I told them they're gonna turn into a chicken tender because that's all they eat. That's all they eat is chicken tenders. So
"Hey,
yeah,
it's protein."
yeah. A couple of guys, Lonnie, Trey Long and Grant, all they eat is chicken tenders. So I try to get on them about their eating habits. So literally just took Trey to the grocery store. So we had to make him get some fruit.
Oh, I love that.
Definitely.
Now, living with the guys, I know you have to do other stuff. Like, I know you guys probably cook dinner together, have
Yes.
that together, but with the guys that you don't live with, what are some things that you like to do to bond?
Okay. Well, we do bowling pretty often. We practice every day. There's that. So practice and meetings, we get a lot of camaraderie there, especially in the locker room, um, but just hanging out with the guys, just outside of where we have to be, like with meetings, watching film and stuff like that. That's the way that we bond, though. Watching film, watching our next opponent, working out together. That's the way. Our day goes by pretty fast. So the time is, you got to take care of your body. You got to make sure you're eating, and then still meet up with the guys and watch film, get ready for the next day with practice and the game plan and stuff like that. So, it happens fast, but, we're definitely family here. Some of these, like a lot of the guys are vets. So, I've either played against them or played with them on former teams. So, it's definitely that family feeling.
Mhm. And you spend a lot of time with the guys. Who
Yeah.
would you say is the one who's always cracking jokes and is the funniest on the team?
They're gonna say me. They're gonna say me. They're gonna say I crack all the jokes. Trey's a big jokester as well. Trey's definitely a big jokester. I would have to say Amos is another jokester. He's on the defensive side. He makes fun of coach a lot. So,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Does
those
coach clap back?
say that again.
Does coach clap back?
Yeah, sometimes you never with him. You never know. With him, you never know. You don't know if to take him serious or if he's joking. He's a straight shooter, but every now and then he'll crack a smile to let you know he's just messing with you.
Mhm.
Most
Nice. Now, you
definitely.
mentioned bowling. If you had to pick a bowling squad of 4 of the guys, who would you pick on your team?
Mm, bowling squad for the guys. That's a good question. I would probably say I would probably take the quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Just because they kind of they hone in on their craft. That's something that's kind of like that translate to them. And I would probably outside of the quarterbacks, I believe maybe Grant was one of the better bowlers. I don't remember. I don't. We had a tournament. I don't remember who won. The kicker was he did really good too. He did good too. So anybody who's in those positions where it's kind of intricate, they do better. They do
Yeah,
better.
hone in
The
on their craft.
quarterbacks and the kickers, guys like that.
Yeah. Now, speaking of quarterbacks, talk to me about your relationship with your quarterback and how it's unfolded this season.
Okay. So as you know, we've went through quite a few quarterback changes. But the current quarterback, Tyler, he actually lives with me as well. So it's fun with him. We watch film together. We go over the plays. We're in here in the kitchen at the kitchen table every night. Just drawing up all the plays for the next practice. So by the time we get into tomorrow, we have every play written up that we got to go through practice. So we familiarize ourselves just so practice runs smooth. That's just what we're doing pretty much every night. And like yesterday, some of the other teams had games, so we're all in the living room, just basically scouting our opponent. So getting ready for this upcoming game. It's very tight knit here. So when we come home for practice, we're cooking breakfast together. So we're watching film at night. So he's definitely one of the guys. He's definitely bought in and came in and made a difference and made an impact, right away.
Now, speaking of watching film and eyeing the guys, during last year's Super Bowl, I was there for Radio Row and I got to interview Max Crosby. He has like this Muhammad Ali tattoo, and I'm
Okay.
huge on boxing. And I know
Nice.
he's big on trash talking, just like Muhammad Ali was. Do you like to do
Yes.
any trash talking on the field?
Who? Yes,
Exactly.
yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, I try to calm down because talking trash makes you tired, way more tired than you should be. So a lot of my pro guys, they will always watch the game and be like, "Yo, bro, you got to stop talking so much." I can tell it's making you way more tired. So I try to dial it back a little bit, and have a little bit more fun after I score my touchdowns, talk a little bit more, in between the play. But I tried to tone it down a lot. I'm a lot better than I was. I'll say that much.
What was the secret sauce to that? Because Max would say that he would do his research on whoever he's trying to talk smack against or on at the game. I was like, that's like homework on top of
Yes,
watching film. That's a
yes.
whole nother assignment.
Yes, yes. So yeah, you're always trying to get little nuggets to go in with the game. If a guy has a girlfriend or what school he went to, you try to get little, odds and ends, just depending on the person. Like if I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to see number 22 a lot this week. So, let me go and research. Okay, he went to this school, he knows this person. So, it typically goes like that, so I've even caught other guys doing their research on me. So it gets fun. Guys are creative, so that keeps it fun and interesting.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I bet. Now, I saw, your game against Oregon, that second quarter, after you score a touchdown, you did a dance. Do
Yes.
you think of these dances beforehand, or they just hit you on the spot?
So sometimes they're premeditated. Some dances I plan out. I work on them for the week, and I'm like, all right, if I score, I'm doing this one. And then, like Tyler, he stays with me. We're watching film. We came up with a dance. So, a lot of times I have maybe one or two going into the game. But when I start scoring 3 and 4 touchdowns, I run out of dances. So I just try to celebrate with the guys at that point.
Oh, I love that. Now, what's a superpower that you wish you could have on the field?
Ooh, a superpower that I wish I could have on the field. Um, I would say running faster. I would say, yeah, be so fast, can't nobody touch me. And not be able to get tackled, maybe another one. So either elite speed or the ability to break every tackle.
Okay. When you talk speed, I think of Dash from The Incredibles. He's like
Yes,
super
yes.
fast.
Yes, yes, super fast, super fast. A blur, as what they would call it.
Mhm. Now, I know you played in New York,
Yes,
Jacksonville, Orlando, and now you're in Nashville.
yes.
Between all those places, and we can even throw in your high school, what would you say is the best advice you ever received?
The best advice I've ever received. Oh, that's another great question there. Um,
Whether it was
probably
from a coach, mentor, or even a teammate or a
it
teacher?
would probably be one of the ones I heard more recently, actually, since I've been in Nashville, is be where your feet are. So that's, I took that as like just live within the moment, just fully embrace, the point where you're currently at in life. Don't look too far behind, don't look too far ahead, just live in the moment and, just essentially just like I said, embracing the time that you're currently in. So, if that's, I'm at a professional team, that's doing everything that a pro would do, just taking care of my body, eating right, just, being a student of the game, so I really, I really, cherish that quote when I heard it, like, be where your feet are. So, that's probably one of the better, quotes that I've heard recently. So, and, it just resonated with me definitely.
Okay, okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. Now, one last question.
Yes.
I've seen clips of the games in Nashville,
Yeah.
and the crowd is crazy.
Yes.
The energy just seems amazing. What would you say is the biggest difference between everywhere you've previously played to where you're at now?
The support, I would definitely say the support, just like not only from the coaches, but like you're saying, like from the fans, from the city. You can tell, people like are really like Nashville fans, and whatever Nashville has going on, they're going to be there. So, you definitely have some diehard Nashville fans. So, even like, some famous people came to the last game, that I didn't even know about. So, I felt like that was really big. a big difference, having like, known people at the games and literally on the sidelines and, talking to you in between the plays. I felt like that was a really cool experience, and just to support, all the way around, especially with Coach Jeff Fisher, being the owner and the commissioner of the league. Just having him around the guys is, really eye opening, and he's looked at as like a legend around here. So, that's just another cool experience, just being a part of the experience, in Nashville. So I find that really wonderful about playing here.
And
Definitely.
you mentioned, having some famous people go to the games and talking to you in between plays. That's
Yes.
something that surprised me when I went to my first, arena football game. The
Yes.
fan interactions are crazy. I love that.
Yes.
It makes the game
Yes.
so much more exciting. What
Yes,
would
it
you say is
does.
the biggest difference between traditional football, 100 yards, to arena football?
Exactly what you said. Like, you're right next to the action. You can hear what the players are talking about. You can feel the hits. My mom always said that she likes to sit further away, because when those hits, like, the helmets sound off. So, she doesn't like being too close. She said she feels it traumatizes her. So, that's the type of experience that you're getting as a fan, though. So, you're right next to the action. Sometimes players go into the stands. Sometimes, the footballs is going into the stands pretty frequently. So, it's definitely action packed. It's fast paced, and you're right next to the action. That's been really the feedback that I've gotten from, when I have friends and family come visit. It's like they feel like they're basically on the field. It's a completely different experience than sitting in the nosebleeds, almost a mile away from the field. So
Yeah.
definitely a big difference.
Yeah, definitely an exciting game.
Yes.
An exciting place to be.
Yes.
Every arena that I've been to, all the fans are great. I feel like there's just such great support that each
Yes.
team has, and that's beautiful to see. Now,
Yes, it is. It is.
Rob, thank you so much for chatting with me. You have this, like, you're always smiling, you have this aura. I can't wait till we finally meet in person and I can
Yes,
interview
definitely.
you then. And,
Most definitely.
yeah, and then talk about those bowlers that you pick on your team.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, we got to have another team outing. We can bring you. You can bring your team, and we can have a challenge, a bowl off.
Only if we get the railings up.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
not
all
walking
right,
hills right
all
now,
right,
so I can't do
okay,
that.
okay, all right. I got you. I got you.
All
We
right,
can make
Rob.
it fair.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate your time as well.
Of course, I'll be chatting to you soon.
Okay, definitely. See you soon. Thank you. Go
Mhm.
Cats.